The sound of laughter echoed through the school halls as the final bell rang for the day. It was the last week before Christmas break, and everyone seemed to carry a little extra sparkle in their eyes. Teachers were packing up their desks, children were talking excitedly about the gifts they hoped to find under their trees, and the school corridors were filled with handmade decorations, paper snowflakes, colorful drawings of Santa, and glittery stars taped to every window. In the middle of that cheerful noise walked a quiet boy named Eli. He was polite, soft-spoken, and often kept to himself. Most kids at school didn't know much about him. They only knew he arrived in a sleek black car every morning, driven by a man in a suit, and that his backpack looked newer than most. Some thought he was shy. Others thought he was just different. No one really knew that Eli's father was one of the wealthiest businessmen in the city. But his father didn't want Eli to grow up spoiled or treated differently, so he had enrolled him in a regular public school, hoping he would learn what life was like for ordinary people. Eli didn't mind it. In fact, he liked it. The kids were real here. They talked about their favorite shows, shared snacks at lunch, and played tag in the yard. He loved that they didn't care about brands or last names. They just wanted to have fun. But even so, he still felt a little apart from everyone. He didn't know why. Maybe it was because he was too quiet, or maybe because deep down, he knew his life outside of school was different from theirs. That Friday, the school cafeteria was buzzing louder than usual. It was the day of the Secret Santa exchange, where every student brought a small wrapped gift to surprise someone else. The air smelled like hot chocolate and peppermint. Teachers played holiday songs through the speakers while kids giggled and traded colorful packages. Eli sat at his usual table near the window, sipping his milk and watching the others open their gifts. He hadn't joined in the exchange because his father was away on a business trip and hadn't remembered to sign the form. He didn't really mind. He enjoyed just observing. At the table next to him sat two girls from his class, one with pigtails and another with curly brown hair tied in a red ribbon. They were talking quietly, unaware that Eli could hear them. "I can't wait to see what I got," said the girl with the ribbon, unwrapping a small box. Inside was a cute bracelet made of colorful beads. "Oh wow, it's so pretty. What about you, Lily? What did you get?" The other girl, Lily, gave a small smile and shrugged. Her hands were empty. "I didn't bring anything," she said softly, "so I'm not part of the exchange." Her friend frowned. "Why not?" Lily looked down at the table, twisting the edge of her sleeve. "Mom said we couldn't spend money on extras this year. She lost her job at the bakery and things are kind of hard right now. She said Christmas will be small, but that's okay. We still have each other." The girl with the ribbon didn't know what to say. She nodded awkwardly and went back to admiring her bracelet. But Eli kept staring at Lily, even after the conversation ended. She didn't sound sad or angry, just calm, like someone who had already accepted how life was. He watched as she helped another classmate clean up spilled milk from the table, smiling as she did it. There was something about that smile that stuck in his mind. The rest of the day went by in a blur. Kids talked about their Christmas trees and favorite holiday movies. Some were planning to travel to see relatives. Others couldn't wait to open presents waiting under their trees. But Eli couldn't stop thinking about what he had overheard. When he got into the car after school, he stayed quiet the whole ride home. His driver asked if everything was okay, but Eli just nodded. That evening, he sat by the living room window watching the snow fall outside. The city lights glowed through the glass and the fireplace crackled softly behind him. His father came home late, tired from another meeting. He took off his coat, poured himself a cup of tea, and noticed Eli sitting quietly with his chin resting on his knees. "What's on your mind, son?" he asked. Eli hesitated for a moment. "At school today, a girl said she's not getting any Christmas gift this year," he said. "Her mom doesn't have money for it." His father looked at him surprised. "And why does that bother you so much?" Eli shrugged. "Because everyone else is excited about presents and she was just smiling like it didn't matter. I don't get how someone can still be happy like that." His father smiled gently and sat down beside him. "Maybe she's learned something most people forget, that happiness doesn't always come from things." Eli thought about that for a while. "But it doesn't feel right," he said quietly. "Christmas is supposed to be special. I wish I could do something for her." His father tilted his head. "And what would you want to do?" "I don't know," Eli said, fidgeting with the hem of his sleeve. "Maybe Buy her a gift. Or something her family needs? That's kind, his father said. But if you do, don't tell anyone. The best gifts are given quietly. When you help someone just to make them smile, that's when it means something. Eli nodded slowly. The idea stayed with him long after his father went upstairs to work on his laptop. He couldn't explain why, but something about Lily's situation tugged at him. Maybe it was because she reminded him of how his mom used to volunteer at shelters before she passed away. She used to tell him, "Even the smallest kindness can warm someone's whole winter." Those words echoed in his heart now. The next day was Saturday, and while most kids slept in, Eli woke up early. He sat at the kitchen counter with a notepad, trying to remember everything Lily had said during lunch. She mentioned her mom worked at the bakery, or used to. Maybe they lived near downtown. Maybe she liked drawing since he had once seen her sketching in the art corner. He started making a list: art supplies, warm coat, something special for Christmas. He looked at the list, then at the Christmas tree in the living room, covered in shiny ornaments and wrapped boxes. His father always went big with decorations, but suddenly, the glitter didn't feel as magical as it used to. It felt empty knowing that someone else his age might not even have a tree. When his father came downstairs, Eli handed him the notepad. "Can we get these things?" he asked. His father glanced at the list. "Is this for your friend?" Eli nodded. "I want to surprise her, but I don't want anyone to know it's from me." His father smiled proudly. "Then let's make it happen." They spent the afternoon driving around town, visiting stores that were buzzing with last-minute shoppers. At the art shop, Eli picked out a box of sketch pencils, paints, and a set of small canvases. At the clothing store, he found a soft pink winter coat that looked just her size. And at a small gift shop near the corner, he stopped when he saw a little music box with a silver key. When you wound it, it played Silent Night. It was simple but beautiful. "That one," Eli said. She mentioned she liked that song during art class. They brought everything home, wrapped the gifts in red paper with golden ribbons, and placed them in a plain cardboard box. No fancy labels, no note, just a tag that read, "From a Secret Santa." But Eli wasn't done yet. He still felt there was more he could do. "What if her family doesn't have enough food for Christmas dinner?" he asked. His father thought for a moment, then said, "We can arrange a grocery delivery through the store. No names, just kindness." That evening, as the snow kept falling outside, Eli helped seal the box. He imagined what Lily's face would look like when she opened it. He didn't know her well, but he felt a strange sense of connection, as if for the first time he understood what Christmas was really about. That night, when he went to bed, he couldn't fall asleep right away. He kept thinking about all the kids at school who were excited about new toys, and then about one girl who had accepted that she'd get nothing but still smiled anyway. Somewhere deep down, he promised himself he would never forget her lesson. That kindness, when given quietly, was worth more than anything money could buy. And as the snowflakes covered the streets outside his window, a small plan began to form in his heart, one that would turn into something far bigger than he could imagine. For now, though, he just drifted off to sleep, dreaming not about what he'd receive on Christmas morning, but about the joy of giving someone else a reason to smile. The next morning, Eli woke up earlier than usual. The air outside his window was pale and misty, the kind of winter morning that smelled like snow and wood smoke. He could hear distant church bells ringing somewhere across town. For a moment, he just lay there staring at the ceiling, thinking about the girl from school, the one who said she wouldn't get a Christmas gift this year. The memory of her calm voice and small smile had stayed with him all night. It wasn't pity he felt exactly. It was something gentler, like wanting to make a gray day a little brighter for someone else. He slipped out of bed quietly and went downstairs. The living room was still glowing with the soft light of the Christmas tree. Underneath it were dozens of wrapped presents his father's assistants had arranged the day before. But none of them felt exciting to him anymore. His thoughts were somewhere else. His father walked in a few minutes later holding a cup of coffee and rubbing his eyes. "You're up early," he said with a small smile. "That's not something I see often during winter break." "I couldn't sleep," Eli admitted. "I kept thinking about what we talked about yesterday." His father nodded slowly. "The girl at school?" "Yeah," Eli said. Quietly. "I just don't get it. Everyone was so happy talking about their gifts, but she just sat there pretending it was fine. She said they couldn't afford it, but she wasn't even sad. I keep thinking about how strong she was. I don't think I could smile like that if it were me. His father sat down beside him. Some people learn early how to find happiness in small things, he said. But sometimes that strength comes from having no choice. Eli looked down at his hands. I want to do something more, he said finally. Not just the gifts. I want to help her family too. His father took a sip of coffee and thought for a moment. That's a big thing to take on, son. But I like the way you're thinking. If we do this, we have to do it right. Quietly, respectfully. Eli nodded. I don't want her to know it's from us. I just want her to have a Christmas that feels like magic. His father smiled, a tired but proud smile. All right then. Let's make a plan. They spent the rest of the morning at the dining table, drawing ideas on a notepad. First, they needed to find out where Lily and her mother lived. Eli remembered that she once mentioned a street near the old bakery downtown. That was enough for his father to make a few quiet calls. Within a few hours, they had an address. It was a small apartment building on the edge of the city, in an older neighborhood where the snow on the roofs turned gray from traffic faster than anywhere else. When Eli saw the place on a photo his father's assistant sent over, his heart sank. The windows looked cold and bare, no lights, no decorations, just a thin curtain drawn across the glass. It didn't look like Christmas there at all. By afternoon, Eli's father had arranged for a grocery delivery to arrive at their door the next morning. It wasn't fancy, just things that would make a warm Christmas meal: chicken, bread, milk, vegetables, and a small cake. They didn't add any notes or cards. It would simply appear as if someone somewhere cared. But Eli still wanted to do more. The gifts we bought, he said. I want to give them myself. His father raised an eyebrow. You want to go there? In person? Eli nodded, his eyes steady. I don't want her to know who I am. I just want to see her face, that's all. After a long pause, his father agreed. We'll go tomorrow night after dinner. It'll be quiet by then. That whole day, Eli could hardly sit still. He wrapped and rewrapped the boxes, making sure the paper didn't tear and the bows sat perfectly straight. He kept thinking about what her reaction might be: surprise, disbelief, joy. The thought of it made his heart beat faster. When the evening came, he and his father dressed warmly. The driver loaded the gifts into the trunk without asking questions. Snow was falling softly again, covering the city in a white glow. The car ride was quiet except for the faint hum of Christmas music on the radio. Eli pressed his face against the cold glass, watching the houses they passed, each one bright, with lights and laughter, families gathering inside for the holiday. Then as they turned onto the street near the bakery, the view changed. The houses were smaller, the lights dimmer. Some windows were dark. A few kids were playing outside, building a snowman with an old scarf and missing buttons. The air here felt different, quieter, thinner, like people were trying to make the best of what they had. When the car stopped, Eli took a deep breath. His father looked at him gently. You sure you want to do this yourself? Eli nodded. I want to leave the box by their door. I don't want them to see me. He stepped out into the snow, the cold biting at his cheeks. The box felt heavy in his arms, but not just from the weight, from the meaning it carried. He climbed the short flight of stairs to the small apartment and saw the door, old and scratched, with a simple wreath made from paper and string. He could hear faint music playing inside, maybe a radio. For a moment he stood there frozen. Then he carefully placed the box down, adjusted the ribbon, and knocked gently before running back down the stairs. He ducked behind a parked car just in time to see the door open. A woman stepped out first, probably Lily's mother. She looked tired but kind, wearing an old sweater and holding a dish towel. When she saw the box, her eyes widened. "Lily," she called softly. "Come here, sweetheart." A small girl came running to the door, her eyes bright with curiosity. When she saw the red and gold box, she gasped. "Mom, what is it?" "I don't know," her mother whispered. "There's no name on it." They carried it inside carefully. Through the window, Eli could see them setting it on the small table. Then the mother slowly began to unwrap the paper. When she lifted the lid, she froze, and then covered her mouth with her hands. Lily leaned over the table, her eyes growing wider and wider with every item she saw. The warm coat, the paint set, the brushes, the little music box. When Lily wound the key and the tune of Silent Night began to play, the girl's face lit up like the Christmas lights outside. She laughed, then cried, then hugged her mother tightly. Even from where he stood, Eli could see the tears shining in her eyes. It was the kind of moment he knew he'd never forget. He didn't move for a long time. He just stood there in the cold, watching the scene through the frosted glass. His father waited quietly in the car, not rushing him. Finally, Eli turned back, his cheeks pink and his heart full. When he got in, his father looked at him and said softly, "You saw what you needed to see?" Eli nodded. "Yeah," he whispered. "It was perfect." The ride home felt different. The city lights seemed warmer, the snow softer. He wasn't thinking about the gifts under his own tree anymore. He was thinking about how a few small things, a coat, a music box, some paint, could change someone's whole night. When they reached home, his father turned off the engine but didn't get out right away. "You know," he said, "most people think giving is about money. But what you did tonight, that came from your heart. That's something you can't buy." Eli smiled faintly, still staring out the window at the snow. "It didn't even feel like I gave something," he said. "It felt like I got something back." His father nodded. "That's how you know it's real." That night, when Eli finally went to bed, he didn't stay up thinking about presents or parties. He thought about the way Lily had hugged her mom, the way her eyes had sparkled under, the yellow light, and the sound of the music box filling their little apartment. It wasn't a grand thing, just a quiet, beautiful moment that made everything feel right. For the first time in his life, Christmas wasn't about what he wanted. It was about what he could give, and how that giving could make someone else believe, even for one night, that miracles still happened. He didn't know it then, but that simple act, one secret box left on a snowy doorstep, would change not only Lily's Christmas, but his entire life in ways he couldn't yet imagine. The next morning, sunlight peeked through the curtains, making the frost on the window sparkle like diamonds. Eli woke up slowly, stretching beneath his blanket. For a moment, he forgot everything: the snow, the gifts, the night before. But then it came rushing back. The look on the girl's face, the sound of the music box, the warmth in her mother's eyes. It felt like a dream, but it was real. He lay there smiling to himself, staring at the ceiling. For the first time, Christmas didn't feel like something happening around him. It felt like something he was part of. Not because of what he had received, but because of what he had given. When he came downstairs, his father was already in the kitchen making breakfast. The smell of pancakes and cocoa filled the air. "Morning," his father said without looking up. "You sleep well?" "Yeah," Eli said, pulling out a chair. "I couldn't stop thinking about last night." His father smiled. "I figured you wouldn't. That kind of feeling stays with you for a while." Eli nodded. "It felt like I did something that mattered. Not just for her, but for me too." "That's what kindness does," his father said. "It changes both sides." They ate quietly for a while, listening to the faint sound of holiday music playing from the radio. Outside, snowflakes drifted down lazily. The world looked peaceful, clean and still, like it had paused for a moment just to breathe. After breakfast, Eli went to the window and watched a group of neighborhood kids having a snowball fight. He smiled, but his thoughts wandered again to Lily. He wondered what she was doing now, if she was painting with her new brushes, or wearing her coat outside, or listening to the music box again. He didn't need to see her to know she was smiling. Somehow that was enough. But that feeling didn't fade as the days passed. It grew stronger. Something inside him wanted to keep doing more. It wasn't about her anymore. It was about the idea that there were probably so many kids like her. Kids who quietly accepted having less, kids who smiled anyway. On Christmas Eve, Eli's father noticed how thoughtful he had become. They were sitting by the fire, wrapping presents for family friends, when his father said, "You've been quiet all week. Still thinking about your Secret Santa gift?" Eli looked up and nodded. "Yeah. I keep wondering if there are other families like hers. I wish I could help them too." His father leaned back in his chair. "There are, son. More than you can imagine. Then maybe we can help more," Eli said, his voice eager but soft. "Not just this one time. What if we made it a thing every year, like a Christmas project? We could call it something like the Secret Santa Fund. We could give gifts to families who can't afford them." His father looked at him carefully, clearly moved. "You really mean that?" Eli nodded. "It made me feel alive, Dad. Like I finally understood what you always say, that money doesn't make people rich. Hearts do." There was a long silence. The fire popped, and somewhere outside a church bell rang. Then his father smiled, a real proud smile. "All right then," he said. "If this is something you want to do, we'll do it together." Eli's eyes widened. "You mean it?" "I do. But it has to come from you. You decide what it looks like. I'll just help you make it possible." That night they sat side by side with notebooks open. They began sketching out ideas, small ones at first. A few gift boxes for local kids next Christmas. Maybe food baskets for families who needed them. As the ideas grew, so did Eli's excitement. He felt like something important was being born right there at their kitchen table. But before they could start planning too far ahead, something unexpected happened. A few days after Christmas, the school reopened for a short winter event, just a gathering before the long holiday break. Students were asked to bring in one story to share about their Christmas. Something special or meaningful that had happened. Eli wasn't sure what to say. He didn't want to talk about what he had done. It was supposed to be a secret. But when he got to class that morning, he realized he wouldn't have to say a word, because someone else already was. As the teacher called for volunteers, Lily raised her hand. She stood at the front of the class holding a small wooden music box in her hands. "I don't really know who it came from," she began softly, "but something amazing happened to me this Christmas." The room fell quiet. Everyone turned to listen. Even the teacher leaned forward slightly. "On Christmas Eve," Lily continued, "someone left a big box at our door. We didn't know who it was from. There was food, gifts, warm clothes, and this music box." She wound the silver key, and the gentle tune of Silent Night filled the classroom. My mom cried when she heard it. She said it was the most beautiful thing she'd ever received. And I felt like someone out there cared about us. Like we weren't forgotten. Eli sat frozen in his seat. He could feel his heartbeat in his throat. No one knew it was him. But hearing her tell the story made his chest ache in the best possible way. He didn't need credit. He didn't need thanks. Just knowing how it made her feel was more than enough. The class clapped when she finished, and even the teacher had tears in her eyes. Lily sat back down, still smiling shyly, the music box resting on her desk. That moment changed something in Eli. He realized kindness didn't need an audience. It didn't need recognition. It just needed to exist, quietly, purely, without expectation. Later that day, when he got home, his father asked how school went. Eli told him the story, every word. His father listened, his expression soft. When Eli finished, his father said, "See? That's what a small act of goodness can do. It spreads, and it really did spread." A few days later, Eli's father shared the idea of the Secret Santa Fund with his office team. Not naming Eli, of course. They loved it. Within a week, dozens of people volunteered to help. They began planning for next year, gathering lists of families in need, contacting schools, and setting up donation boxes around the city. But the best part was that Eli stayed involved every step of the way. He designed small cards that read, "You are not forgotten," from a Secret Santa. He helped wrap boxes, pick out gifts, and even visited the warehouse where the supplies were stored. For a kid his age, it was a lot of work, but he didn't mind. Each box felt like another spark of hope. Sometimes, while helping, he thought about Lily again. He still saw her at school, but he never said anything about what he had done. She didn't know, and she didn't need to. They would sometimes talk in art class now, and she always seemed brighter. She even started bringing her drawings to class again. Colorful pictures of snowy towns, children smiling, stars over rooftops. One day, while they were cleaning up after art, she said, "You know, I think Christmas changed for me this year. I used to think it was just about getting things, but now I think it's about believing that good people are still out there." Eli smiled. "Yeah," he said quietly. "I think you're right." From then on, life started to move forward. Months passed, the snow melted, and spring painted the city in green. But that winter night never left his heart. It became a memory he carried with pride. Not the kind of pride that shows off, but the quiet kind that reminds you of who you want to be. By the next Christmas, the Secret Santa Fund had grown far beyond what Eli imagined. Hundreds of families across the city received gifts and meals. And though no one knew who had inspired it, every single person involved could feel that same warmth, the kind that comes from giving without wanting anything back. Eli's father sometimes looked at him across the dinner table and smiled quietly, realizing his son had started something that money alone could never buy, a legacy of kindness. And Eli, still just a kid, didn't think of himself as special. He just thought of himself as lucky to have learned early what truly mattered. He never told Lily the truth. Maybe one day he would, maybe not. But that didn't really matter anymore. Because every time he saw her laugh with her friends or paint with her bright new colors, he knew that one small act of kindness could change more than just one Christmas. It could change hearts. That was the real miracle. Winter returned with a soft hush, the city streets covered in fresh snow. Lights twinkled from every house, reflecting on the icy sidewalks, and the smell of cinnamon and hot cocoa floated through the air. Eli watched from his bedroom window, feeling a familiar warmth inside, him that had begun months ago, the one sparked by the first Christmas he had given without expecting anything in return. He had spent most of the year helping his father quietly expand the Secret Santa project. They had set up a small team to find families who needed help and ensure gifts and meals reached them before holidays. Eli loved every part of it, the planning, wrapping, delivering, and even designing the little notes that went with each gift. Each note simply read, "You are not forgotten, you're from a Secret Santa." It never mentioned names, because Eli had learned that the joy of giving didn't need recognition. That afternoon, the snow outside was falling heavier than usual. Eli pulled on his coat, scarf, and gloves, feeling the crisp air on his cheeks as he stepped outside. He had a small package to deliver himself, a tradition he had started, even though the Secret Santa project had grown large enough to manage itself. He liked seeing the moment a family opened a gift even if he couldn't be recognized. It made his heart swell in a way nothing else could. He trudged through the snow to a small apartment building downtown. The streets were quiet, only the faint crunch of his boots and the occasional distant laughter from other children playing in the snow. When he arrived at the building, he spotted the familiar small door where Lily and her mother lived. The warm light spilling through the windows was a comforting sight. Eli carefully placed the gift at their doorstep, a small wrapped box with a scarf, some art supplies, and a little journal. He paused for a moment, thinking about the girl he had first helped months ago. He could hear faint voices from inside, the mother talking to Lily, probably telling her a story before bedtime. For a second, Eli wondered if they remembered the gift from last Christmas, but he quickly reminded himself that this year was about making every day feel special, not just one night. He ran back to the street, slipping slightly on the ice, and got back into the car waiting for him. His father gave him a proud smile. "You're becoming a real Santa helper," he said softly. Eli smiled back. "It's not just for Christmas anymore," he said. "It's about giving whenever we can." Days turned into weeks, and the city prepared for the end-of-year celebrations. Eli found himself thinking about school, friends, and the laughter that filled the corridors. But he also noticed something else, a growing understanding of what giving could do. It wasn't just about gifts or food. It was about hope. The people who received help didn't just get objects. They felt remembered, cared for, and seen. One morning, a few days before New Year's, Eli was walking to school when he saw Lily sitting alone on a bench outside the playground. She was drawing in her notebook, her pencil moving quickly across the page. Her focus was so intense that she didn't notice him at first. Eli approached slowly, "Hi, Lily," he said softly. She looked up and smiled. "Hey, Eli, want to see what I'm drawing?" He nodded, crouching beside her. She showed him a sketch of a snowy town filled with children playing, houses glowing with lights and people handing out gifts. "It's kind of like how I imagined Christmas this year," she said. Eli studied the drawing, noticing the tiny details. The snowflakes, the way the children's faces were full of joy, the warm glow of the windows. "It's beautiful," he said honestly. "You made it really special," Lily shrugged. "I guess it just felt right. I wanted to remember the good parts of Christmas." They sat together quietly, the snow falling around them. For the first time, Eli realized how much small gestures could shape someone's world. A few gifts, a little thought, and a bit of kindness had turned Lily's winter into something magical. And she was sharing that magic with her drawings, her words, her smile. That evening, Eli returned home and helped his father organize more packages for delivery. They had collected clothes, books, and small toys for dozens of families in need. Eli wrapped each one carefully, imagining the faces of the children who would open them. Sometimes he added a little drawing or a kind word of encouragement inside, something that would make the moment feel personal and special. While wrapping a box, Eli paused and thought about how far the Secret Santa project had come. What started as a single act of kindness had now grown into a small community of people helping each other. Volunteers from his father's office, neighbors, and even school friends had joined in, donating what they could. Every box that went out carried a piece of warmth, a promise that someone cared. As Christmas approached again, Eli decided he wanted to do something more personal for Lily and her mother. He remembered how quiet the first delivery had been, how magical it felt to watch their faces without being noticed. He wanted to recreate that feeling, but this time, he also wanted to leave something lasting, something that would remind them not just of one night, but of the hope they could carry through the year. He spent days thinking about it. He wanted a gift that combined practicality with joy, something that would help the family but also spark creativity and imagination. Eventually, he settled on a set of art supplies, a warm blanket, a few books for them to read together, and a small music box that played a gentle tune. He added a handwritten note that simply said, "For moments of warmth and happiness from a Secret Santa." On Christmas Eve, he bundled the gifts carefully, wrapped them in bright paper, and headed to the apartment building. The streets were quieter than usual, covered in fresh snow. He moved quickly, placing the box carefully by the door and stepping back to watch. Inside, the mother noticed the package first. Her eyes widened as she called for Lily. The little girl ran to the door, her eyes lighting up when she saw the familiar wrapping. "Mom, it's beautiful." They carried the gifts inside together, and Eli watched for a moment through the window as they unpacked each item. Lily's eyes sparkled with joy when she saw the blanket and the books, but her face lit up the most when she unwrapped the music box. She wound the key and the soft melody filled the apartment. Her mother sat down beside her, tears quietly streaming down her face, and Lily hugged her tightly. Eli didn't stay to watch too long. He knew his role wasn't to be seen, only to give. He slipped back into the snow, his heart full, and ran to the car. His father was waiting with a small smile. "Another successful delivery?" he asked. Eli nodded, feeling a deep sense of satisfaction. "It's amazing to see them happy," he said. "Even just for a moment, it changes everything." The rest of the evening passed quietly. Eli helped his father check the remaining packages, making sure every family would receive their gifts. By the time they finished, the city was silent, except for the soft sounds of the wind and the distant bells from a nearby church. Eli went to bed that night with a warm feeling in his chest. He knew that what they were doing wasn't about recognition or praise. It was about something much more profound, the ability to touch lives and make people feel seen, valued, and loved. Over the next few weeks, Eli continued to help with the project, delivering packages and seeing the joy they brought. Each visit reminded him of the power of small gestures and the way kindness could ripple through lives in ways that nothing else could. And as the year drew to a close, Eli realized something important. This project, this act of giving, had changed him too. He was more aware of the needs of others, more compassionate, and more willing to step outside his own world to make a difference. It was more than just a Christmas tradition now. It was a lesson in life, a reminder that even small actions, when done with love and sincerity, could create ripples of hope that lasted far beyond a single season. Eli understood that happiness wasn't just about receiving. It was about seeing the joy in someone else's eyes, knowing that your actions had made a difference. And in that understanding, he found a sense of purpose that no gift under the tree could ever provide. As snow continued to fall softly outside his window, Eli drifted to sleep with a smile on his face. He didn't know what the next year would bring, but he knew one thing for certain: kindness, when shared from the heart, could truly create miracles. The new year began with soft sunlight filtering through the windows and the faint smell of melting snow in the air. Eli woke up slowly, stretching under his warm blanket, thinking about the past winter and everything that had happened. The memories of Christmas Eve, the small packages, and the smiles he had seen still filled his heart. He felt lighter somehow, like the world was a little brighter than it had been before. At breakfast, his father poured cocoa into 2 mugs. "You look happy," he said, handing one to Eli. "What's on your mind this morning?" Eli took a sip and smiled. "I keep thinking about the families we helped. I wonder how they're doing now. I hope they know someone is still thinking about them." His father nodded. "They probably do, in ways you can't even see. That's the magic of kindness. Sometimes it's invisible, but it changes everything." Eli thought about Lily and her mother. He had watched them open gifts twice now, each time leaving the apartment feeling like a warm light had entered their home. But this time he wanted more than just to see a moment of happiness. He wanted to make a difference that lasted, something that would carry forward long after the music box stopped playing and the art supplies were used. Over the next few days, he and his father worked on expanding the Secret Santa project. They wrote letters to local schools and community centers, asking for families in need to be recommended. Volunteers from the neighborhood joined, helping to sort gifts, wrap packages, and organize delivery routes. Eli loved being involved in every detail, from the design of the notes to the smallest bows on each gift. One afternoon, while they were preparing packages, Eli paused to look at a photo on the wall of his father's office. It showed Eli as a little boy, holding a small present in his hand, smiling shyly at the camera. That was years ago, but something about it struck him now. He realized that even as a child he had always felt the joy of giving. It hadn't changed. He just hadn't understood it fully until now. As the weeks passed, Eli began to notice changes around him. His classmates started talking more about helping others, inspired by the stories Lily had shared about her Christmas miracles. Teachers began discussing kindness projects in class. Even friends who weren't directly involved in the Secret Santa initiative started thinking about ways they could give back. It was like a small spark had grown into a gentle fire, spreading quietly through the school and the community. Eli found himself looking at the world differently. He noticed people who struggled, those whose voices were soft, whose needs were quiet. And he realized that sometimes, all it took was a small act, a warm meal, a note, a little attention, to remind someone that they mattered. On the last day before the school's winter break, Lily approached him in the hallway. She held a small envelope in her hands, her cheeks pink from the cold. "I wanted to give you something," she said softly, handing it to him. Eli looked down, surprised. "For me?" he asked. She nodded. "It's not much, but I wanted to say thank you. You don't know how much this year changed for me and my mom. You made us believe in something good again." Eli opened the envelope carefully. Inside was a small drawing, a sketch of a snowy street, houses glowing with light, children carrying gifts, and a figure walking quietly in the snow. At the bottom, in tiny letters, it said, "For the person who made our Christmas magical." Eli felt his chest tighten. He looked up at Lily, who was smiling shyly. "This is beautiful," he said softly. "Thank you," she shrugged. "It's just a drawing." "No," Eli said gently. "It's more than that. It's a reminder of why we do this." That afternoon, Eli and his father prepared for another round of deliveries. The boxes were heavier this time. More families had been added to the list. Volunteers were helping sort them, laughing and chatting as they worked, and Eli felt a warmth he couldn't describe. It wasn't just about the gifts themselves, but about the energy in the room, the shared purpose, the knowledge that they were all making a difference. As they loaded the final box into the car, Eli's father turned to him. You know, it's amazing how something so small at first can grow into something so big. You started this because you wanted to help one family, and now look at all of the people who are touched by it. Eli nodded. I guess it's true what you said. Kindness spreads. Their first stop that evening was Lily's apartment. The snow was falling again, soft and steady. Eli carefully placed the new package by the door, making sure it was neat and inviting. Then he stepped back, watching from a distance as the mother and daughter opened it. He could see the glow on their faces even from the street. Lily picked up the blanket and hugged it tightly, then opened the journal, flipping through the pages with wide eyes. The mother held up a small basket of food, her eyes misty, and when Lily unwrapped the music box and wound the key, the soft tune of Silent Night filled the apartment once again. Eli felt something inside him loosen, a weight he hadn't realized he was carrying. Seeing their joy, seeing how something so small could bring such light, made him understand the true meaning of giving. They stayed for a few minutes, unseen, watching the family celebrate quietly. Then Eli slipped back into the snow, careful not to be noticed. When he got back into tea, his father glanced at him. You look happy, he said. I am, Eli said, a smile stretching across his face. It feels right. Over the next few months, Eli continued to work on the Secret Santa project. Each holiday season brought new challenges but also new rewards. The project grew, reaching more families and inspiring other children and adults to give in their own ways. Eli learned about empathy, about patience, about the quiet joy that comes from seeing someone else's face light up because of something you've done. By the time the following Christmas approached, Eli had become a familiar figure in the community, not for his wealth but for his actions. People began to recognize him at delivery sites, sometimes offering small thanks, sometimes just sharing a smile. But he never sought attention. He knew that the magic of giving was in the moments that weren't seen, the moments that mattered most to those receiving help. One snowy evening, while Eli was delivering gifts, he paused for a moment and looked at the city around him. The streets glowed with holiday lights, children laughed in the distance, and families prepared for the season. And he realized that this city, this world, was filled with possibilities to bring joy, hope, and kindness to those who needed it most. He thought about Lily again. She had grown more confident, more creative, and her mother seemed lighter, happier, more at peace. And while Eli never revealed his role in the gifts, he knew she would always carry the memory of that first Christmas, the one that had reminded her there was still good in the world. As Eli walked back to the car, he felt a deep sense of purpose. He understood now that giving wasn't about money or recognition. It wasn't about power or status. It was about seeing the humanity in others, about remembering that each person has a story, a struggle, and a heart that can be touched with small acts of kindness. He returned home that night, exhausted but fulfilled. The snow continued to fall outside, blanketing the city in white. He sat by the window, watching the lights flicker and the shadows move, thinking about everything he had learned over the past year. He thought about the first Christmas gift, the surprise, the joy in Lily's eyes, and the countless moments of happiness that had followed. And in that quiet moment, he made a promise to himself. He would continue this work for as long as he could. He would continue to give, to inspire, and to spread hope. He would never forget that even one small action, one simple gesture of kindness, could create ripples that touched countless lives. Eli knew that life would continue to bring challenges, both for him and for the people he hoped to help. But he also knew that kindness was stronger than hardship, that hope was more powerful than despair, that love, when shared without expectation, had the ability to change the world. And so, as the first snowflakes of the new year drifted past his window, Eli felt a sense of peace he had never known before. He understood that Christmas wasn't just a day on the calendar, or a pile of gifts under a tree. It was a feeling, a choice, a way of seeing the world and deciding to make it better, one act of kindness at a time. He closed his eyes and smiled, imagining the faces of the families he had helped, the laughter of children, the quiet tears of parents, and the small but powerful moments that reminded everyone that they mattered. And in that moment, Eli realized something simple but extraordinary, that miracles didn't always come wrapped in shiny paper or tied with a ribbon. Sometimes they were found in the warmth of a heart willing to give, in the courage to care, and in the quiet belief that one person could make a difference. And from that day on, Eli carried that belief with him, letting it guide every choice, every action, every word. He knew that as long as he could see someone smile because of his kindness, the world would always have a little more light, a little more hope, and a little more magic. Because the greatest gift he had ever received wasn't under a tree. It was the knowledge that he could change someone's life, and in doing so, change his own.